impossible to estimate the true number of homeless children in the Hunter. The Salvation Army's Stan Hindle thinks there are probably around 2,000, with 500 new faces on the streets each year. Stan is a true friend in need to teenagers like these who regularly arrive at mealtimes at the Salvation Army Centre. But often meals, advice and a listening ear are all that Stan can offer. Newcastle's hostels are nearly always full. The kids sleep rough, on the beaches or in squats, derelict buildings that at least offer token shelter.
Principal problems would one be accommodation and the lack of it for them. No long-term accommodation anyway, if they are homeless and they need some sort of security and some sort of stability to their life. The other would be the fact of finance and no finance. Often when they first hit the streets they don't know what's available to them, and then they start robbing or mugging, breaking into and steal, shoplifting and all the types of things that brings them into a criminal element. With girls often compromising themselves and probably in squats. They're just stuck out into an area of life they've never experienced before.
Stan is pleased the report has drawn attention to a problem far more widespread than most people believe.
And I think the report has highlighted the problem so that now, for the first time, Australia will recognise a national problem that hits every part and every community, and then something has to be done by government bodies to help the private organisations do their work far more effectively and for them to come in and take up the cost of it too.
David is just one teenager who helps make up the frightening statistics. He is 17 and has been living on the streets for 9 months. Today he showed us the empty shells of several buildings in Newcastle, which he calls home. In one room lay a dead cat. The filth, the used needles and graffiti tells a story of little hope. Have you ever had to steal to eat?
Yeah, most of the time.
When it's cold and dark and you've no place else to go, Newcastle's homeless kids come and squat in places like this. But squatting here is fraught with danger. In the darkness, you've no idea who might be here waiting to attack. Rapes and murders are not uncommon. But when you're desperate, it's a risk you're prepared to take. Rebecca Skinner reporting for NBN News.
Things were a little anxious in the members' stand while time ticked away, and there was still no sign of the number one official guest, Premier Nick Greiner. Eventually word filtered through. With a political brawl at Parliament House, Mr Greiner couldn't make it, and ceremonial duties were passed on to Virginia Chadwick. Mrs Chadwick also handed over an $80,000 cheque from the government for the Showground Trust. The theme of this year's show is And Now Tomorrow, and a display from Australian Warship Systems promoting Newcastle's bid for the Anzac frigate contract, and the BHP's look at the future follow this theme. In the cattle ring, the Illawarra Shorthorns were judged this afternoon. Nabiac dairyman Les Lee won the champion cow with Sugarloaf Flower Girl 47th. And the class act of the show, the dressage, went through the usual pomp and ceremony in centre ring. Overseeing the whole program was the belle of the show, Miss Showgirl Jane Henderson. A part-time commerce student, Jane won a trip around the South Pacific.
Why did you enter the competition?
I entered the Newcastle Showgirl to make new friends and to be able to promote Newcastle, a city that I was also born in.
School children have the day off for the show tomorrow, and organisers are hoping for booming crowds.
To mark the service, the Australian government earlier this week ordered all flags be flown at half-mast tomorrow. A tribute, and the National War Memorial was coming under growing pressure to keep its flag flying. Said they would ignore Canberra.
Council, residents and Attorney General John Dowd are united in their belief that Wyong is in desperate need of a new courthouse. The row is over where the new courthouse should be sited. The Attorney General's Department has drawn up plans at a cost of $175,000 for a court on government-controlled land in the centre of Wyong. It is here that today's heated meeting took place. The site of the old primary school, now housing several community buildings, was given to Wyong Shire 100 years ago under the care and control of the council. The council says for years it has wanted to make the site into a public park. Member for Gosford, Chris Harcher, representing John Dowd, said the plan would take up only 3,000 of the 8,000 square metres, leaving the rest for the community. But Deputy Shire President Stephen Cutler said the design did not cater for short-term population growth, and inadequate provision for parking may mean more land would need to be used. Wyong Council has offered several alternative sites, but these have been rejected. But the meeting was told if work did not begin soon, the allocated funds would revert to the Treasury.
Most certainly it is the worst form of emotional blackmail. What has happened is that the Attorney General has indicated that unless this money is spent quickly and shortly, that what will happen is that the money will be spent elsewhere. That's got to be the worst part of the whole process so far.
But Chris Harcher denies any blackmail.
No, there's no intention of blackmailing. We wish to cooperate with the council. What we want to do is to ensure that the people of Wyong have an adequate facility to look after them.
The Hunter Academy of Sport opened 2 years ago on a blaze of glory, with high hopes of helping to take sport and the hunter to the very top. But in recent times, the academy has been noted to have a rather low profile and attracted accusations it wasn't meeting the demands put to it. But today, the academy laid to rest those criticisms with the launching of its upcoming programs. High on the list is the vacation summer camps for the school-age sports fans. They'll be run in the holidays next January, offering a diverse range of activities and expected to attract more than 300 youngsters. Pinpointed in particular has been basketball, with the Junior Encouragement and Development Program planned to continue throughout 1989.
They'll be going through a coaching routine during the school break at Easter, further coaching in the school break in July, and then touring Victoria in October. So it's a good program. The specific thing that we want to do is to accommodate the kids from the Hunter region. It's important that they get the opportunity to attend these camps within the region, so that we're on their back door.
The adults won't be overlooked though. Ken Clifford, Executive Officer at the Academy, says they'll benefit from a national congress on socio-ethical and medical aspects of drugs in sport in August, and in just a few weeks an important seminar dealing with the very real danger of neck injuries in rugby union.
Newcastle Rugby Union came up with the idea of a short seminar to deal with rugby union injuries, and they've got some big names coming up for that afternoon seminar on Saturday, I think it's the 18th of March.
Two father and son teams take to the track at the Motordrome in the State Formula 500 title. Lloyd Thorley, who has won numerous state and national championships, will do battle with his son Brian, while Darren Tierney of Victoria clashes with his son Barry. Another interesting racer is Northern Territory champion Clyde Baxter, who not only holds the Territory title, the South Australian Crown and the Murray Bridge title, but has to battle twice as hard as anyone else. Clyde is a paraplegic.
This car has tumbled over and over.
In a statement issued this afternoon, the Commissioner asked Council not to suspend employees, saying staff should resume work immediately in the public interest. He also said Council should operate with the old industrial agreement for 1 month until new discussions are held.
citizens lining the 7-kilometre route bowed in reverence for the man who ascended the throne 62 years ago as a son of heaven, a living God. A man in whose name a nation grabbed for world power and later turned military rout into economic triumph. So the world came too to pay homage, the greatest assemblage of statesmen in the history of the planet. 162 countries were represented, 55 by heads of state, including US President Bush, French President Mitterrand, and almost at the end of the line, Australia's new Governor-General, Bill Hayden.
His Excellency the Governor-General of Australia and Madam.
Behind the scenes, a massive security operation brought much of the rest of Tokyo to a standstill for the 13-hour ritual. 32,000 police...
Mr Pickering told the crowd that the Lochinvar station was one of 24 in the state under review, but there had never been any firm decision on its future.
If the department was unable to show that the dollar savings involved in closing the station would adequately compensate this government for breaking the very close bond between local community and the police officer, who in this area is very highly regarded. That community spirit and cooperation is something really that dollars can't pay for.
This is the third time the station has won a reprieve under a succession of ministers. While locals are prepared to take Mr Pickering's word in writing, they say they're ready to fight again if the need arises.
We're appreciative of the...
Ticket sales haven't matched last year's bicentennial show, but show president Bob Cannington says the 1989 show went like clockwork.
Well, delightful, Peter. We're very, very happy. Weather's been good and crowds have been very good and everything seems to be running well, so we're delighted.
Ring events again featured today with the elegance of the horse and carriage and the final judging of the champion pony of the show. School groups from the Hunter and Sydney learned judging skills from the experts to obtain an insight into breeding and selling cattle. But the real selling was on Sideshow Alley, the traditional show bags, fast food and fun fare. Numbers may have been down this year, but for most it seemed Newcastle show was well worth the effort.
It's a good tradition that brings everyone together.
Is it good entertainment for the children?
Yes, expensive though. Oh, ring events, games, show bags, rides, all that, so it's really enjoyable.
Prospective recruits were invited to today's exercise to see what the Army Reserve is all about. Called Try Before You Buy, the recruitment exercise is designed to give participants hands-on experience before being asked to sign the dotted line. And experience is certainly what they were given. They can now boast of loading, directing and firing a regular field gun.
This field gun is being used to fire airburst ammunition. Once the target has been sighted, 7 men will prepare and fire the gun. The shell will explode in the air 6 kilometres away, showering the enemy with shrapnel.
Number 2, fire!
According to recruitment officer John Balfour, this is just one of many activities reserve soldiers have the chance of doing.
They'll find a full range of military skills, particularly with the artillery, heaps of outdoor activities, parades, learning to wear uniforms, discipline drill, all that sort of thing that a lot of youngsters need these days.
For Dwayne Norrie, one potential recruit, it's not only the weekends of adventure which appeal, but also the lifestyle.
Why did you pick the Army Reserve?
Well, you can go home at night after you finish, and it's discipline, but it's not as much as the regular army.
A stormy meeting of members of the Municipal Employees Union today voted overwhelmingly to return to work tomorrow. But some men said a return to work was pointless since they expected to be back out on strike in another month. The cooling down period over the next 4 weeks will see the men working under their old conditions, while a new agreement is negotiated. Union Assistant Secretary Stuart Jackson said the decision could have been reached 2 weeks ago. A motion put by one worker concerned about the strike's effect on the elderly and families with young children was narrowly defeated.
I think to try and help the public at this stage, the men put a motion forward to work Saturday as an overtime shift, but unfortunately on our local award we have a motion that says that we don't make up any overtime after strike action has been taken. The vote decided that we would not work overtime.
Today, the garbage trucks remained idle, while rubbish continued to build up outside Cessnock Tip. The entrance has now been blocked by bags of rotting garbage, and many residents are now tipping their rubbish along the roads, regardless of warning signs. So although normal services will be back in operation tomorrow, garbage collectors will not be sympathetic to any extra accumulated rubbish, much of which has already been dumped here outside the tip gates. Any bins that cannot be lifted will just be left behind, along with extra bags of rubbish by their side. So for many Cessnock residents, it will be back here to the tip until everything gets back to normal in a couple of weeks' time. Rebecca Skinner reporting for NBN News.
Bronwyn Ryan from Adamstown arrived with 14-month-old triplets Ellie, Annie and Hannah. Toddlertown is a new daycare centre provided to fill the gap between long daycare centres and preschool for children up to 5 years of age. But while no doubt the triplets are adorable, Bronwyn was only too happy to leave the three tiny tots under the wings of supervised care. Time away from groping fingers, runaway feet and too much curiosity is nothing short of bliss for this tired mum.
And what does a day off mean to you?
Oh, like I can breathe again. Relief.
While it's assumed parents go shopping or take up motivating courses to fill their newfound time, nothing could be further from the truth for Mrs. Ryan.
And where are you going to now?
Home, have a cup of tea and enjoy the silence.
The sponsorship announcement is an encouraging start to the 89 season for Austral supporters who've seen the club go from strength to strength. NBN is one of 3 major sponsors and will give support largely through promotion of Austral matches and activities. NBN Chairman and Managing Director Joe Sweeney said the commitment would go beyond a business deal.
We will work closely with you, we want to support you, we want to see you up there in the top grade and we want you to win it because I think you've got the heart and soul to do that as sportsmen. Thank you very much.
The club's new look strip bearing 2HD, FAI and NBN's logos was also unveiled by club manager Dave McGuire. He says the sponsorship deal marks another milestone for the club.
I think so. The directors of the club and the management have worked very, very hard for many, many years, and to have NBN as the major sponsor is really something worthwhile to us, and we're really looking forward to a good long-term association.
The new colours will be seen for the first time tomorrow when the Australs take on the Socceroos in an exhibition match for Telethon.
Both the Waterside Workers Federation and the Transport Workers Union are claiming the job of moving the stacks of Oregon around Number 4 Western Basin. A preliminary agreement was reached that both unions would cooperate to unload the ship and then hold talks to decide the position in the future. However, work stopped before the Oriental Spring was unloaded and a hastily arranged conference was being held late this afternoon. Ironically, this was all happening about the time the acting port manager, Jeff Connell, was telling the Newcastle Businessmen's Club of the MSB's efforts to stimulate slackening throughput in the harbour. Originally, Mr Connell was to have detailed the plans to implement the recommendations of the Joy Report into the administration of ports in New South Wales. A Newcastle committee has recommended autonomy for the harbour, but we're still waiting to hear what is to happen. Mr Connell emphasised that he's spearheading a strong marketing drive for the port.
Well, there's been a lot of marketing activity from the Port of Newcastle. We are currently moving very close to the completion of the live sheep export project. This timber importing exercise has been a result of a lot of marketing effort on our part, and we are pursuing opportunities as they arise. I believe that the rural sector will provide a lot of shipping opportunities for Newcastle in the near future.
As well, Mr Connell said, Newcastle Harbour has immense room for expansion, with Kooragang at its disposal, and an application's been made to absorb part of the railway's Honeysuckle goods yard.
We believe it's commercially feasible, the expansion of the Throsby and 4-5 Lee area, and again, it's going to have to stand up on its own financial legs. We believe the trade is there and we think we can demonstrate that. The whole area at the end of the Throsby Basin is associated with future opportunities once the oil berth is moved.
Learning from the lesson of the old Ro-Ro wharf, which the MSB provided and has not been used more than a dozen times in 15 years, the board is interested only in projects which have proven viability and can be substantiated. At today's business lunch, Mr Connell also hinted at changes to charging for port services, moving away from commodity-based billing to emphasis on charging vessels more to use facilities and expanding infrastructure to accommodate them.